kept coming to my dorm room that had been assigned people who were trying to switch to a different dorm room or whatever, or for whatever reason. And the first guy came to my dorm room and he's like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I was sent over to here because they said you needed a roommate, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, I don't really need a roommate, but I said, if you want to, you can move in. And I said, he's like, well, what did your last roommate? What happened to your last roommate? And I said, well, he left. He said, why? I said, because I'm gay. He said, oh, that's a good reason. Bye. And he left. The second guy came to the door and said, so I hear you're looking for, you need a roommate. And I was like, yeah. I said, as long as you're okay with the fact that I'm gay. He's like, oh, no, sorry, bye. And left. And then so I did that to like 3 or 4 guys. And, I just told them right up front, I'm gay. If you have a problem with it, goodbye. So I never got assigned another roommate the entire freshman year, both semesters that I was there. So it was great. I had this room all to myself and it was wonderful. So I never missed the fact that I didn't have him as a friend anymore. I never missed the fact that I was, that he didn't like the fact I was gay, but it kind of outed me because everybody then knew I was gay. And so, by that point though, I began to make friends of my own, obviously, in the common area and the dorm and the dorm next door to us and things like that we shared like a common area between the 2 dorms. And so between the men's and the women's dorm and the one building we were in. And so I began to make my own friends by that point, who I was openly gay with anyway. So it didn't matter. But I did get like when somebody put a note on my door, like saying something like faggot this or something like that or whatever. And the RA got involved and called a meeting about it, whatever. But, generally I didn't have any issues with it at all after that. And so, and I had a roommate down the hall, 2 roommates down the hall, 2 doors down from me that were both gay. And I met lots of people who were gay there. And it was great. And so I had a really great time in college and made some really great friends or whatever. And then the following year, when I was a sophomore, although I was involved in the gay and lesbian and GLBT organization, whatever we had at SMU at the time, I wanted to be part of a fraternity. I wanted to have friends who were gay, and so I started a chapter of a national gay fraternity called Delta Lambda Phi at SMU. And I got national press, I got local press, I got all that kind of press just because I started this stupid chapter at this very conservative school. And I had lots of people who were writing on these op-eds or whatever in the school newspaper called the Daily Campus. And they were saying how horrible and disgusting it was and how we can't allow this. And I had people who were in support of it. And then I was going back and forth and writing these articles defending what I was doing and everything else. So anyway, it was just an interesting time in my life. SMU was and is a very conservative school. And if I had the chance to go back, I would have gone to a school that was more in line with my own personal belief systems, And that's only one of the 3 places I've been. I mean, I've been to 2 schools, but I've gotten, I'm on 3rd degree right now. So I would have been, I would have gone to maybe Berkeley or Cooper Union or UC or University, NYU, sorry, or Columbia or somewhere like that. One of those places that are very highly liberal minded, because I would have been far happier in those places. But, as they say, you can either flee or you can stay and fight. And so I stayed and I fought, and I made a difference, even though it was a small difference in that I actually tried to make a difference there. And I actually stood up for who I was and what I believed in, and said, look, it's not okay to not accept us. It's not okay to not try to understand who we are. We're not going anywhere. And so I've always been that way. I've always been someone who's incredibly self-assured in some ways. In other ways, I'm not. But in a lot of ways, when it comes to standing up for for personal liberties or for human rights, I'm very outspoken and very conscious of that. So I try to use my life in ways that will affect people. Unfortunately, it's hard to do that with architecture. It's hard to affect change in the liberal agenda or whatever through architecture. So I'm not really in a business where I can actually. It's not like I'm an attorney or a business person that actually has some huge billion-dollar corporation. I can make change in that way, but excuse me. But I try. I do what I can with what I have. You do what you can with what you have, as they say. So, and I've always thought about going into politics, and I've never wanted to be a politician because I'm not disgusting enough to be one. I'm not I'm not seedy enough. I'm too honest, and I'm too real, and too blunt, and too without edifice, and too, not unglossy, too matte to be that. I wish I could be, because I know I could actually be an awesome politician. I know I could actually stand for rights for people. But I just can't do it. The entire political process, I'm disgusted by the process itself. I'm disgusted by the people that are in it usually. Even the people that I like someone, I typically don't trust to some degree. So, the sad thing is the people who become our politicians are the ones that necessarily, not all the time, but half the time, should never have been a politician. Because they get into it for the wrong reasons. A lot of people get into politics because they want to make money, or they want a cushy job, or they want the respect of their peers or whatever, not because they really want to help people. They do it because of their own selfish reasons. And I think a politician should be there to serve. And that's what Thomas Jefferson, and that's what George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Adams, John Adams, had said about politicians serving. And that was the purpose of politicians in those days, was to serve their country, to serve their fellow man, and to make a difference in our lives. But these days, as is evidenced, but for example, by the government shutdown that we're experiencing now in this country, it's all about partisanship, etc., and not what's best for the country. If it were about what is best for the country, then we would not have ever had a government shutdown. We would have had they would have come to some sort of agreement. Now, I personally feel that I stand aside Obama on this issue. I don't think that he could kowtow to the Republicans, because the Republicans are trying to hold hostage Obamacare. Obamacare is already a law. It's already passed. It's already been done, decided, period. So it's not something that was even negotiable. It's not negotiable at all. They just wanted to do whatever they could after trying 47 times to overturn Obamacare that was already made a law and failed. This was their last attempt to get their way. And the Republicans, as always, are thinking about themselves and no one else. Now, you could say Obama should have actually done something about it. What the fuck is the man supposed to do? Just say, okay, whatever you say, let's do what you want. The government is not just run by Congress, and it's not just made up of Congress and the executive branch, there's a judicial branch, and legislative branch, right? And so you've got these three branches for a reason. And so these two branches of government, or these two sides, are specifically in terms of the legislative and the executive side of government, have decided to disagree on this particular topic. But if the Republicans really were looking out for what is best for America, would they have held hostage Obamacare and led us down the path towards a government shutdown, meaning hundreds of thousands of people are unemployed at the moment and without pay, even though they're going to get back pay? A lot of people can't survive without living paycheck to paycheck every week. So what are these people supposed to do in the interim, and how long will this last? They don't know. So unfortunately, as usual, as I've always said, when it comes to Republicans and conservatives in general think only about themselves. What they do, their actions, the consequences of those actions typically are the last thing on their mind. Whereas with a Democrat or a liberal individual, generally, not always, but generally, they are people thinking about the common good and the common man and what's best for them, not what's best for just their careers, or their, throwing a tantrum like a fucking little 2-year-old, not because they don't get their way. So I'm not saying that one side's perfect and one side is horrible, but I am saying that the Republicans are really horrible. But I'm not saying that Democrats are just saints. Of course not. But I do think that when we have Democrats and we have Republicans, we have a lack of representation for the majority of this country. Because when we have Republicans, they represent the top 1%. We have Democrats, they represent supposedly the common man. But really, honestly, if you well, first of all, let me say this. The Republicans are there in the House. The House is ruled by Republicans right now. And the Senate is ruled by Democrats. Okay. So senators are there, House members or Congress people are put there by the people to represent their interests and their needs. And Republicans are, as always, doing what is best for them and not for the people. So they've already not met their responsibility in their job description. They're already doing whatever the fuck they want, despite how many calls they're getting when 59% of the country wants Obamacare, and when 59% of the country disagrees with what the Republicans are doing. And yet, here we are, because they do what they want, despite what they're supposed to do. The Senate is generally right now controlled by the Democrats, and the Democrats are doing what is in line with their party leader, Obama. So, and that's what they're doing on the other side as well. The only difference is that the senators are not there to represent the people's needs necessarily. And they are to an extent, but they're really not. That's not why senators exist. They don't exist for that purpose. So, anyway, it's just another illustration of how fucked up our country is. And the rest of the world's laughing at us because we can't even fucking, make a decision as important as this on our own, or come to terms on anything. It's really just pathetic. I mean, really it is. And as I've said many times before, I would be perfectly happy if they just wiped everybody out in the Congress and the executive and judicial branches and started all fucking over. And I've always said, we need a country where an average person can become president of the United States or vice president or speaker of the House or whatever the case may be, right? Or the head of the Senate. And we don't live in a place like that, because what if you want to become president? When it started, anybody could try. But these days, you have to be a millionaire or billionaire or have $1 bazillion of corporate funding behind you, which is rare for a normal Joe to have in the first place. So typically they're business people who only care about business interests. And so we live in a world where we as a country are ruled by people that have very little interest in the general public. They have more interest in those few people in their own backyard. So unfortunately, this is the world we're living in today in America. What are we going to do about it? I guess we could possibly vote for our people, right? We could vote people who actually went to Congress to represent our needs. People who actually, when we actually talk to them and say, do this, do that, they actually will do what we say. But unfortunately, I don't know if people are actually going to do that, so we'll see. Let's see. So, hold on. I was reading something in the chat. Have I seen The Bohemian Club? Is that a movie? Or what? No, I haven't seen The Bohemian Club. What is that about? I think it's, I don't know actually sure what it's about, so you have to tell me about it. But no, I haven't seen it. Hold on, I had to get a drink. What is it? You said no. It is a place where politicians go, only the richest. Okay. Okay, so for 2 weeks in July, no women. It sounds like fucking Illuminati or some shit. Or like some like skull and bones type society, which actually that does exist, by the way. But anyway, yeah, that's not, he says it's a place where the politicians, only the richest, go for 2 weeks in July. No women. They do insane, crazy stuff there. Like what exactly would you say they do there? Ken? Very skull and bones, he says. What do they do there? I'm just curious to know. Sorry, I was reading something. Sorry. Oh, by the way, I want to announce that my good friend Desert Rose was picked up to be on iHeartRadio. And congratulations to her for that, because she deserves it. And anybody who's interested in being on iHeartRadio, you can if you're a host on Spreaker, you can apply to be on there as well. So I haven't